Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we are going to be checking out the Burger King Pockett Bike Racer game for the Xbox 360.
Yes, we are finally finishing off these Burger King Xbox reviews. Thank God. But possibly going out on a high note.
Possibly.
Probably. Maybe not.
Maybe.
You find out. Watch the video. Released in 2006, this was once again developed by Blitz Games and published by King Games. It's, well, not really an exclusive, but came out on the Xbox 360, but it was also backwards compatible with the original Xbox. So, there you go. And like we said, it's the last one of these games. All three came out at basically the same time, and these were $4. So, let's see if you're going to get your money's worth with your value meal.
Alright, the graphics. Well, just like we said with Big Bumpin', this game has just enough detail to offer you some variety. So as you play through, you're going to have 5 different unique tracks, and you can actually choose from 8 different characters, not including the Create a Character mode, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The characters, they look goofy, but I guess they kind of get the job done, and hey, you also get Brooke Burke. I would say this is her first video game, but she was in Need for Speed Underground 2, so can't really give it that much credit there. The tracks themselves, you get some interesting ones. You have a nighttime track, a farm track, this little interesting like mansion garden. They're not that impressive, and the power-ups you use, they're a little bit lackluster. But then again, what can you expect from a game that was $4? So when it comes to scores, I gave it a 5, Jim gave it a 4. When it comes to beer, I'm just going to add 2 because you at least get Brooke Burke, and that's what Jim used to get off to back in the day.
Used to?
Damn it, Jim! You have HD stuff now.
Look, Bri, I'm a man of tradition.
No!
The sound I can keep quick because if you've watched your other Burger King reviews, it's kind of in the same boat. You only get a couple different music tracks, and none of them are bad, but 1, they're not memorable, 2, they're extremely short, and 3, I mean, they're not, like, great, but they're okay background noise. And you get sound effects, and they're fine for the ones you get, but again, you don't get enough of them, and the game still feels kind of weirdly empty with the sound department in general. Feels like there could be a lot more, but again, it's a $4 game, so what are you going to do? So when it comes to scores, we both gave it 4s. And when it comes to beer, I'm going to give it 2. 1 for the forgettable music, and 1 for the lack of sound effects.
Alright, the control. As much as it pains me to say, this is the best controlling Burger King game. Now, that's not saying too much, but it is your basic take a kart racer, but just put it on a mini bike. And you have your accelerate, you have your brake and reverse with the triggers. Then you have your actual face buttons with Y being taunt, which, let's be honest, there's no reason to do that in this game. B actually is a boost button. A is a slide, which you can hold down as you make your turns. And I gotta be honest, sliding into some of these turns was way more responsive than it had any right to be. And X would allow you to use your gadgets or your weapons that you would collect as you go through the tracks. You can steer with your left analog stick, and if you use your D-pad, you can have a quick look around you. It's a very simplistic control scheme, and everything is very responsive. Even as you're using some of the faster bikes, we never really had a problem with it. I guess overall, the weapons did feel a little bit sticky, and at the end of the day, it's so simplistic that you couldn't exactly say it was perfect, so we had to settle for 6s. It is still by far the best controlling of these Burger King games, and for that, I'm only going to give it 1 beer because I was expecting much, much worse the second I loaded this up, and was pleasantly surprised at how well it responded.
So the gameplay, I mean, at the end of the day, just think of Mario Kart, but on little pocket bikes. Which in itself isn't a bad thing. So when you're playing your tournament modes, you have 4 different game types. You have the standard race, which is, it's a standard race. You're racing around the tracks. You have weapons to try and mess up the other racers. You know, get good enough positioning to win the races and to win the tournament overall with points. Then there's Battle Royale, which is fun, but it's easily broken. So basically, you don't have to worry about laps or anything like that. Just knock out all the other players. If you want to cheese the shit out of this, there's a weapon called firecrackers, which basically you just lay it behind you and it goes off. And you know what? And the enemy AI will always run into them. So if you want to just cheese that mode with easy wins, just use the firecrackers. Next up, Cone Trial. So it's kind of like, you know, like they say, downhill skiing without the hills and the snow, or in the skiing. You just have to go through a bunch of gates. And it's fun. It's a fine mode. I kind of enjoyed it. It's not like my favorite, but it's not the worst either. The most annoying one, though, is the last one, which is the hardcore racing. Which, no cones, no gadgets, just straight up racing. And that's the one where you're going to have to put some good time in there, just because... Actually, you know what? The hardcore racing wasn't that bad. The actual standard race was the most annoying, because you could be doing pretty good in like a standard one of these games. You could get cheese dicked by an item at the wrong time, and you get screwed over, and you have to do these races all over again. And the load times aren't great. You get all 4 game modes, and you have 3 difficulty settings for each to basically beat the game. You do get a couple unlockables with getting some different bikes that you can unlock with how well you do. There's also a time trial mode, which I didn't really spend any time with. You can play local multiplayer, and of course, back in the day, was Xbox Live. The servers are down, you can't play online anymore, so that's a shame. There's achievements you can go for, so, you know, if you like achievements. There's also the weapons you get in the game, so you get kind of standard stuff for this game type. A shield, rockets, the firecrackers, homing rockets, flash bomb, and a disruptor, which, you know, reverses everyone. And you also have, like, a power gauge, so you have to save up your power to use the more higher-end weapons like the disruptor, but you can also switch between your weapons and just, you know, fill up your meter and just use the little guys. So you can kind of tweak it how you want, which is a nice touch at least. So, like, it's not deep and it's nothing you really haven't seen before or done better 1,000 different ways, but for a $4 game, it's still kind of fun for what it is. And out of all 3 of these Burger King games, it seems to be the most well-rounded of a gameplay experience. So we gave it 5s. So I know we gave Big Bumpin' 5s before, but that was mostly based on the fun of the multiplayer. Whereas this, it's just, you know, an average but solid all-around gaming experience. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 1 happy beer for being the most well-rounded game of these.
The originality. Here's the thing. At its best, this is a mild Mario Kart clone, which is fine because that is an extremely fun game. But it's got very short levels, power-ups we've seen pretty much every version of, and then it's just a simple racer. We can't even give it the creator character because that was already in Big Bumpin' and every other game you could play. We have to be honest, this game doesn't really offer anything other than it is the first bike kart racer for a Burger King game. So with that, I had to keep it super short and super simple. We both gave it 2s. I'm not even going to add beer because if you're coming to this game expecting originality, you might need to go get a Happy Meal instead.
But Brian, that's the wrong meal.
But Jim, I did the thing like Brock did where he called out, I'm going to have a cooler instead of a Miller Lite. See what I did there?
Just move on.
Jim!
Sorry I brought it up. Yeah, replayability we can keep short again because you have local multiplayer, which automatically gives it a 5 from us. You have online multiplayer, rest in peace. You have achievements, you have a few unlockables, and there's even the creative racer mode, which, much like Big Bumpin's, really limited, and you're not going to spend any time on it anyway, but it's there. And then there's the leaderboards. So, I mean, if you enjoy it, there's kind of reasons to come back. So, we gave it 6s. Shockingly. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give 1 sad beer for no more online Xbox Live.
Alright, so overall, this is the best of the Burger King games. Now, as I said earlier, that's not saying too much, but there is fun to be had. Between this and Big Bumpin', if you're playing with a buddy, that's the best time you're going to have. If you're playing by yourself, definitely go with this one. It doesn't offer anything that crazy, but the power-ups can be kind of fun and mildly entertaining. The good news is, every track is really short, so you can get through it kind of fast.
Yeah, and it is easy to learn to cheese like the modes, like the Battle Royale and the cones, because you can just kind of like, sit at a cone, wait for it to spawn, hit the cone, blah, 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 blah. But even for that being there, like you said, it's still the best of the three from a single-player experience. So even if you have no one to play with and you're like, oh, I'm going to sit down with the Burger King games, you'll probably enjoy this one the best.
Yeah.
Do not let the memes of Sneak King mess with you into thinking that that's the one to play. This is the one to play.
Never, ever play Sneak King. That or Big Bumpin' is the only ones, if I'm even going to give you a mild recommendation. But dear God, don't spend too much money on any of these games. Please.
Even with people buying up the stock like crazy of all these for memes, they're still stupid cheap online. So you can still get a whole set of these for under $10. So, if you want to have them and try it for a lark, I guess why not? But, we do have to give a shout out once again to our brother. Yeah, fuck. 3, 2, 1. We do have to give a shout out again to our buddy TJ for the Patreon donation to make us do Sneak King. So we said, screw it. Did them all. So, once again, this is probably the best one to get to.
Yeah. So when we gave our scores, we each gave it 5s, and when we combined all of our scores together, it came out to a 5. It's as average as it can be. Don't expect too much, but you will have some fun with that. So with that, we want to say have a good night, everyone, and cheers.
Cheers, guys.
When it comes to beer pairing, I'm going to go with the Bell's Brewery's Lighthearted Ale. This is an IPA that's only comes in at 3.7%, so you can drink a whole bunch of these. I wanted to give you something a little bit more lighthearted to go with such a fun little goofy game. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.